Hey everybody.
Hey.
So, we made it home. We've been doing the parenting thing for a little over a week now. And we thought it was about time to, kind of tell you guys what happened. So, we had a bit of a crazy time at the hospital having Jude, and so we'll just kind of like walk you through that day.
We got to the hospital at 2. I got all checked in and everything, and they started setting me up, set me up in the room.
And what was funny is that we actually got the exact same room that we had toured in.
Oh yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I told Kel when we were touring, I said, this is going to be our room. And then it turned out to be our room.
It was our room. So we got that done, and then the nurse put in my IV, and she was about to start me on cytotec. But my doctor wanted me to be monitored for a little bit because she saw that I was having already some contractions, so she wanted just me to be monitored and everything before we started cytotec. And then about 8 we started cytotec. The first round of cytotec, which was I took 75 milligrams of a pill of cytotec since I was already 2 centimeters dilated. So we started off with that, and I wasn't getting any IV fluids until we started the cytotec. So when I got the first round of cytotec, they started penicillin and IV fluid. So they ran penicillin through, and penicillin, when it goes in, it burns, just like for a little bit. So I had to put some ice packs on it to try and get the sting away. But yeah, I had to have that because I had group B strep. I was positive for that, GPS. So I had to go through at least 2 bags of penicillin, but I ended up getting 5 bags of penicillin. So I was good and sterilized by the time he came out. So anyway, I got my second round of cytotec, and that round started making me have actual contractions. And so at like 2 in the morning, I started feeling contractions, but they weren't too bad. I could get through them. We tried to take naps. I got
Ambien.
Oh yeah, I got some Ambien, and it didn't work.
Didn't do anything.
I couldn't sleep at all. Joe slept like a baby.
Not like a baby, I slept though. I slept on, they put me on this really hard couch, and they were like, yeah, good luck getting comfortable on this thing, and I fell right to sleep. I was like, you don't understand, I can sleep anywhere. On a hog, on a log, on a rock, or on a dock. I can sleep there.
Oh my god. Yeah, so I didn't get like any sleep, even with the Ambien in, and I had to get up to pee constantly. It was so horrible trying to get up to pee. But yeah, so that's when it started, the contractions started. And then around 4 in the morning, my water broke. And the contractions just got, oh my god, they got excruciating. It was like really, really, really bad. So, and it was funny because I knew my water broke because I could feel liquid coming out. And she was like, well, she had just checked me, and I was like a 3, I think, right? Yeah, I was a 3, and she was like, well, it might be the gel that's dissolving. And I was like, no, there's no way. And then with my next contraction, a bunch more came out, and she was like, okay, yeah, your water broke. So the contractions got really painful, and it was just really bad. And my doctor wanted you to be in active labor before you got an epidural. You could get it before, but she would really rather prefer you be in active labor, which is 5 centimeters. So it was only a 3, and I was just like in so much pain. So I got some pain meds through my IV. And
what a trip that was. Kel talking about how she's flying around. She can't feel her contraction because she's flying around too high.
No, I could feel them. I just was so high I didn't care.
She didn't care about them.
Yeah.
And she was, what was it, coughing or hiccuping? I don't remember.
Yeah. I was trying to hiccup, but I didn't want
gosh.
to. Yeah, but so the pain medicine was great, but it only lasted for like 10 minutes. And then the contractions came back. It was like such a waste. It was only 10 minutes. So then our nurse was like, well, I can get you a strong... Oh, and then I started throwing up.
Oh, yeah, and then she just started throwing up.
Oh, it was horrible. I was throwing up. I had all the contractions, but then our nurse said that she would get me a stronger pain med with some nausea medicine. And so she walked out, and literally she walked back in while I was having another one. And she was like, actually, do you just want the epidural? Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait, I can have the epidural? And she's like, yeah, your water broke. You can have the epidural. I was like, then yes. Yes, I want the epidural. So we waited for a little bit. She was really good about calling them because the anesthesiologist was supposed to be on his way. And he was like a little late, and so she called and was like, hey, where is he? He's supposed to be here. And so she was really good about getting him there as fast as she could. Mm-hmm. I had to have some more fluid before I got the epidural, so I had to go through a couple more like contractions, and it was just, mm-hmm. It was the worst. So then the anesthesiologist comes in, and Joe has to leave, which is like...
Yeah, they told me that I had to leave. And I was like, that's fine with me.
Well, it wasn't fine with me.
My goodness.
We're so tired.
Can you tell? We're new parents. Can you tell?
We probably look crazy right now. But then, so the anesthesiologist comes in and he talks to me about everything, and I had the nurse there. And so the nurse is like in front of me, and when you get the epidural, you're supposed to like relax your shoulders and not move because, you know, it could paralyze you. Mm-hmm. So she like literally like touched my shoulders, and I like just relaxed. I think it was because I was so tired that I didn't flinch. I was literally so still. And the epidural really didn't hurt. It's kind of like the initial like numbness medicine, like when he had to shoot me up, first you get numb. That was like a bee sting. It was like not bad at all. And then you could feel the numbing medicine go in, but it really wasn't bad. And then that's when he said, okay, that's the worst part. And I was like, okay, if I can get through that, like I can get this thing in me. Like this is fine. And then he stuck the epidural in, and he said, okay, your legs are about to go. They're going to feel warm and numb. And only my left leg started, and he was like, it's okay, we're gonna lay you down and it'll even it out on both left and right. But I started like falling over this way, and like I couldn't control it, and the nurse was like, what's happening? And I was like, I'm just falling, I don't know.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
So I had to lay down, and finally both legs were feeling good, and I was feeling good, and I could finally like at least sleep a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't feel anything, and it was amazing. Epidurals, woo-woo, they're amazing. So before my epidural, I was a 3, and then they peanut balled me for a while. Like for the rest of the time I was in labor, I had the peanut ball, and they had to keep coming and switching my sides. And I went from a 3, what was it, to a 7?
3 to an 8.
Well, 3 to a 7 in an hour, and then a 7 to an 8 in 30 minutes. And then I went and I was a 10, but I was a 10 for a while because there was like a little lip of, like, I don't know, lip of my cervix that still wasn't fully open, and it was like catching him, so we had to wait for that to go away.
So it was like she moved really quick, and then at the very end it was just slowed down
slow
for some reason. And
also he wasn't in the right position. He was a little bit, his station was still too high, so they had to give him time to like move back down. So they had stopped my Pitocin, and then they cranked it back up to try and like push him back down. So I got Pitocin and I got it cranked up, and then finally around, I don't know, like 12:30, 1, somewhere around there, I was time like to start pushing. My doctor had to go do a C-section, and then she was gonna come and like help push. So we started pushing, and it was horrible because I couldn't feel anything. Like, the epidural was wearing off, and then I got another hit of it. So I got like it hit again, and then it just made me way too numb again. So I literally couldn't feel anything while pushing, and I wasn't pushing correctly. So she left, and I had to work with the nurse, and they turned my epidural off. Like, they didn't turn it down or anything like that. They didn't like...
I don't think they can because it was regulating you.
They didn't turn it down. They completely turned it off. And I pushed for an hour.
Yeah, we pushed for an hour. We had her mom next to her. I was holding a leg. The other nurse was holding a leg, and we were just watching the business.
Yeah, and I had decided to have a mirror to where I could see, because I'm more of a visual person. So if I could see where I had to push and see how I was progressing, I think that it made, like, in my brain, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be easier for me, but it really wasn't. Like, pushing was so hard, and like, I can't
Look at the camera.
I can't. I'm just like, there's so many things going on out there. Pushing was really hard, but I started finally feeling like pressure and not pain. And then by the time that it was like
Go rod time.
like go time, I felt pain. So my epidural had completely worn off, and I was having a natural birth. Like, there was no epidural left in me. No numbness, no pressure. It was pressure, pain, everything. It was the worst. Then that's when everything got really bad, because I could feel everything.
Yeah, that's when it got crazy. So like I said, we had her mom was next to her, just kind of like holding her up, holding her back up, and then I was on her leg. We had the nurse on the other leg, and then the doctor came back in, and she was in the catcher's position. And it was like Kel was really good pushing, so she pushed 3 times every time. And the first one she did really well, and then it just, like, it got increasingly worse with the other 2, and so she was just kind of missing her mark. And whether it was the fact that she was tired, or it was hurting, or whatever it was just that she was missing the other 2 opportunities and was only getting the first one.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, it took a little bit longer than it should have, and he took a little bit longer in the birth canal. And I'm guessing that's one of the reasons why he kind of swole up, his head swole up bigger than they thought it was going to be. So he had a really tough time getting through the birth canal. And when his head started coming out, that was when we really kind of started realizing that there was something that was wrong. And so Kel was screaming because, of course, she's pushing a baby out of her with no...
That ring of fire is
no support. Yeah,
real.
The ring of fire.
Like, oh my god. It was... Oh.
Yeah, so, I mean, you just imagine, like, the biggest poop that you've ever had, and it's like, it really hurts your butthole. But at some point you can clench that thing off and it won't hurt anymore. But you can't clench a baby off.
Yeah.
You have to go through the entire thing before you feel good again. But
well, hold on. And the worst part about it was, like, so like Joe said, I would push it really good at the first one, but then the other 2 I was so tired. Like, I had already been pushing for like an hour. So like at the end I was just so done. But so his head was like right there, and like Joe said, like, you can't just clinch it off. So it's that ring of fire is literally staying in that position. And all I hear around me is, he's almost there, he's almost there. And they've been saying that forever. And I was like, you keep saying that he's almost there. Like, how much longer is this happening? Because it was like the worst kind of pain, because like my contractions would stop and I would have to literally sit there, with his head there, and it was, oh my god, it was horrible. And wait for another contraction to come so I could try and push him back out, like push him out. It was horrible. Just him sitting there was the worst. I was like, get him out. I can't do this.
Yeah, and then so once we got to that point, we started seeing the head. The doctor was there, and she was, oh, come on, push, push. And then we were all kind of getting ready for it because we were super excited. And that's when the head finally emerged, and he was completely, it was as if he was like non-responsive. He was completely blue and kind of white. And the doctor takes one look at him. She's like, oh, kind of realizes that there's a problem, and she calls for NICU. And that's one of the worst things that I think as a first-time parent that you could hear is like, wait, what's wrong with my kid? Like, what's wrong with my son that just, this is his first day and he's already they called the principal. And so we had just me, Kel, her mom, a nurse, and that had been with us the whole time, and the doctor, and within like
I don't know, like
a second, it seemed like 8 more people came and joined us. There was like 4 people huddled around the NICU cart. There was 2 more people came out and just, it was like they were hiding under the bed, just popped out and pushed me and Kel's mom over to the corner where we could see everything happening, but we just weren't in the way. And so they kind of, those 2 people on the side just got on these stools and started pushing on Kel's stomach and just like pressing on her stomach, and she was already screaming in pain before they had done this, but this was just, it had escalated to worse, and they were just push, 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 and then me and her mom are over in this corner, and we can see everything that's happening, and I'll tell you that it's something that neither of us will ever be able to unsee. Kel was feeling it, but we were seeing it, and so Kel's over there screaming, and we see the doctor has his head like in her hands, and she's just twisting back and forth, and she gets him out just a little bit and realizes that the cord is wrapped around his neck, and so of course that's the reason that he's blue. And so of course, after we see the cord, she pulls the cord from around his neck, me and her mom just automatically are like, well, he's dead. That's why he's not moving. So she's lost her grandson, and I've lost my son. So I mean, that's just, as quickly as it's moving, that's what's going on in our heads. It's just the worst. They call it NICU because he's dead. And then we see Kel over there, she's screaming, and usually when they get the head out, the body will quickly follow, but he didn't. And the reason why is because his shoulder got caught, and so already he's being a problem. And so that's why they were pushing on her stomach, and that's why she's twisting his head, trying to kind of like corkscrew him out of there. And he just wasn't coming. And so for those of you who've seen the video and heard the audio that was recorded, that is when the real screaming began. That me and her mom were over there, when we just automatically have assumed that the baby is dead, and then blood just starts spraying from my wife, and her screams are something from like a horror movie, and it was probably, I'd say it's probably just like the most terrifying thing, because we didn't know what was going on, and then the doctor started saying, "Sorry, I have to cut you. I'm so sorry, I have to cut you," while she's screaming and the blood's just spraying out. And so she's cutting her all the way from hole to hole, and there's just, it was as if she was butchering her, and it was probably the scariest moment of my life, just because I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, I've lost my son, and now I'm gonna lose my wife because of all of the blood that's pouring out of her, and she's screaming, and there's nothing I can do to help her, and all I can do is sit here and hope that this doctor knows what she's doing, which she did. Luckily, she really did.
She's a doctor.
I want to stress that
my doctor is amazing.
I don't think that we would have had the same success story that we have if it wasn't for her and the team at St. Luke's. I mean, they were great. They were a team. They were A plus. But it was just the scariest moment of realizing that I had come here to have a son and I was gonna leave by myself. So that was probably the worst of it. And so once they got him out, once they cut her open, and the doctor had to shove her hands through the incisions to pull Jude out. And once they got him out, he just wasn't moving, and but of course we had already decided that he was probably gone, and so we were just waiting to hear a cry or this and that. And so I ran over to Kel. They took him to the group that was huddled around the NICU station, and they hosed him off or whatever they did, and put him on a breather. They found out that he had a fever, and
he was nose flaring. Yeah,
he was nose flaring, and then, but they hadn't have told us any of this yet, because we were just, I was over there holding Kel because I wanted her to know that I was there for her, just in case whatever I was thinking was really happening. I just wanted to be there with my wife through it, and I didn't want her to be alone, and so so I was sitting there and I was holding her, and then we heard him cry for the first time. It was just like a little, it was just like a little thing, and that was probably one of the greatest moments of the whole thing, was that he was alive. And I don't think that I know that I'll never be able to unlive that day, just because of how emotional it was. And I'm so happy that it ended up being not what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm so overwhelmed with it that the whole rest of that day I couldn't be pulled out of it. I was just stuck in that for the rest of the day. I was exhausted, I was emotional, and I couldn't eat, I couldn't anything like that, just because it was such an emotional moment that I just could not get out of it. And I couldn't get it out of my head, I couldn't stop seeing it, and I saw it the entire rest of the time we were in the hospital. I was just reliving it, and it eventually got better once we got out of the hospital, but the entire time I was in there, I was just reliving it. And I talked with her mom, who was doing the same thing, that she said, I keep reliving the moment. And one of the other things was that her father was right outside the door waiting for his grandson to be born, and he heard everything. And I've listened to the audio that we've recorded, and if you've seen our last video, you've listened to it, and I could only imagine being on the other side of that door and hearing that. And I know what I saw, but just being him and his firstborn daughter's on the other side of that door, and there's nothing he can do to help her. That he later came in and he told us that his little Fitbit or iPhone told him to seek medical attention because he already has high blood pressure and he was at dangerous levels. But knowing that there's nothing that he could have done to help her is probably the worst.
Yeah, but that's just like Joe's side of the video. Like mine is like, so I could see the mirror, and then all of a sudden when it came down to like pushing, like the very end, I couldn't even open my eyes anymore. I was just in a state of like complete exhaustion, and I was just pushing when they told me to push and with my eyes closed because I was just like out of it. And then all of a sudden I just hear NICU, and I have like all these people that's shoving their bodies onto my belly, and like my legs are everywhere and like my belly's being pushed on, and they're still telling me to push when it's already hard enough to figure out where you need to push. But when someone's pushing on you, it's hard to like push while someone's pushing on you. And so they're like, push, and I'm like, I'm pushing, like what else do you want me to do? And then I just hear my mom crying and like Joe crying, and they're all just like, push Cal, push. And I'm like, I am pushing, like I don't know. And I'm just like scared to death. I don't know what's going on because I can't see, because my eyes, I like can't open my eyes. And then like you talk about the ring of fire pain, feeling somebody literally cut you from hole to hole is the worst feeling in the whole world. Like, I would rather have a ring of fire every time I gave birth than being cut like that. It was so excruciating. And then all I hear her is saying, I'm sorry I have to cut you. I have to get your baby out. So then I'm just thinking, oh my God, like, he's like, something's wrong with him, like I need to push. And so I had to like push, and finally when he like came out, like his body, all I felt was like his body come out, and then like I just feel the cord, like the umbilical cord just go like out of me. It was like the strangest feeling that, and then having like her hands like inside the cut, it was so horrible. And then having to push out the placenta after I was just completely out of it and exhausted was bad. And then she had to inject me with numbing medicine to stitch me up. I don't know, it was just like horrible. And all I could hear them saying was, can you hear him? Can you hear him crying? And then I have Joe in my ear saying like, he's out, you did a great job, like he's telling me how much he loves me. And I'm just like crying because I don't know what's going on. And then I can't hear him cry. And then because he's like doing the little whimpers, right? Yeah. And like I couldn't hear it, and then all of a sudden he just started wailing, and I was like, okay, finally I can hear him crying now, I'm good. And I don't know, it was horrible for me. So I can't even imagine like watching it, because like living it, out of it, I was like out of it, so I didn't really know what was going on. I couldn't see anything. So like hearing his side of the story is like crazy, because it probably was like so scary for him. And it was scary for me, and I was out of it, so.
But, you know,
we have our little man.
It was smooth sailing after that. They took him to NICU. They were like, he didn't even need the breathing machine. He didn't have a fever anymore. And they brought him back within the hour.
Yeah,
I was like, well, great. They don't even want him, so no telling what he's going to be like. But he's been perfectly healthy ever since, and we've got our little healthy boy. So, you know, the story is not yet complete, but that chapter of it is.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Thank the Lord. That chapter is.
Yeah, and then hopefully our next one will be easy.
Oh yeah, that was another bonus, is that we the doctor filled our punch card, so the next time we come in, we get a C-section.
So I guess shoulder dysplasia is what he had, and his shoulder got stuck, and that's pretty common to happen again. So she said that I could have a C-section the next time. So that's not easier, but it's just like
But it's just at least we won't have to deal with this again.
Yes.
Recutting her open, this and that.
I'll just have a different kind of recovery.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's it. That's our story today.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that this maybe helps you somehow with what you're going through. If you saw something like, if a father saw something like this and he's not able to get out of it, just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any questions about it, please leave that down in the comments. If you liked the video, make sure to let us know that you liked it. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. I mean, he's here now, and there's going to be way more to come. And as always, guys, another day, another story.
Bye.
Bye.